Hey guys, it's Sean with Venture Unknown. Thought I'd come on here and answer the #1 question I get asked about my truck here, Bruiser, the Land Cruiser. If you guys are not familiar, Bruiser here is a 1996 Toyota Land Cruiser, also known as an 80 series. He's my little buddy. He goes with us everywhere. We absolutely use the mess out of him. Check out my rig walk around to dig into more in depth of what we have done to this truck. But the #1 question I get asked a lot of times when somebody sees this thing is, what kind of paint do I have on it? As y'all can see, I have changed the color of it. It used to be forest green. I don't know if that's the official Toyota color, but it is now a Toyota Quicksand. And would like to describe a little bit about what I've done to make it what it took for the process. I've done quite a few of these trucks. I say quite a few. I've probably done maybe 5 or 6. You can see Mr. Austin's 3rd gen back here, Voodoo Blue. We did this one for him also. Turned out really well. Love the blue color. Tried to talk him out of that color at first, but after we did it, I was actually really thought that it turned out great. So if you're thinking about Raptor in your truck, there's a few things that you should know. One is, if it's a new paint job or even close to being new, you don't want to do this. This process, this paint is a commitment. You will always have this paint job on your truck, so it's good for trucks that are rough. This one was oxidated, ones that are scratched, you know, older trucks, not new trucks. So that's #1. I get people asking me to do new Gladiators and JLs and stuff, and it just doesn't make a lot of sense. You've got to earn them stripes, baby. So the other thing is the process. The cost is around about $500 total, which doesn't sound like a bad price. You can get the kit on Amazon for just under $300, which includes 8 liters of this stuff right here. It includes the hardener and the gun. You might as well just buy the kit. You try to sit there and cut corners by just buying 1 bottle at a time or 4 bottles at a time, or without the gun, it just doesn't really save you a lot of money. You might as well just buy the kit. The other money comes involved is buying the tint. The color that you want, you will need to get from a body shop of some sort, or not a body shop, some place that caters to body shops. Here in Greenville, we use a company called Finish Masters. That when I walked in there, they knew exactly what I was trying to do. They knew how much tint I needed. I'm sure there's a mathematical way of figuring it yourself. I will demonstrate here in a bit about how much you use per bottle. The other cost comes in with masking paper, masking tape, sanding disc for your orbital sander, an adhesion promoter. So those are where your costs come from, bringing it up to around about $500. The cost does depend a little bit on what kind of color you get. This one here was a basic base color. It had no metallic in it. It's not pearl, which I do recommend you trying. The simpler the color, the better it's going to come out. Trying to do anything that is pearl or has some type of metallic in it, it's just not going to come out like you want it to on with Raptor coating. If it's a matte color already, like the Toyota Concrete and like here the Quicksand, then it turns out really, really great. I don't recommend doing any kind of black. Black shows every type of any kind of imperfection that you're going to do while you're spraying it is going to definitely show up. So a little bit about the process on how to do Raptor coating. The very first thing you're going to want to do is take off as much things, all the bumpers, all your roof racks, tents, any kind of mods, your headlights, your tail lights, your door handles if you can get to them. You can take them off if you'd want. I don't think I took my door handles off, but you want to take off as much as you possibly can to make the taping process easier. The next thing you're going to want to do is, I used 100 grit sandpaper to rough up the original paint. It doesn't have to be smooth in any way. The rougher, the better. I wouldn't go any lower than 100 grit. I think I used 80 grit at one time, and you tend to get, when you get to an edge, you'll end up taking it down to bare metal, and that's not ideal either. So 100 grit seems to be the good in between. 120 grit sandpaper. You're going to want to, once you demod your truck and take off all the parts, you're going to want to start sanding it. Once you've done sanding it, you're going to want to pressure wash it very, very well. Getting it clean is very important. I pressure washed and pressure washed and pressure washed, and then I'll wipe the whole truck down with alcohol. With rubbing alcohol, it tends to get all the oils off and anything left behind. I did that, try to do that very, very well. Prepping is everything with this. The next step is to tape it off. This is the one that takes the most time. Take your time doing it. You've got to, you know, it's going to really show the difference if you've done a good taping job. You can see here where I've done my seals. You know, I think we did a pretty good job. You see a little bit of paint right here, but we taped off these seals. We did not remove them. So take your time in taping. It's essential. And then you're going to want to spray. When you spray, the first thing you're going to want to do is, of course, have your paint mixed. You're going to want to mix it per bottle. Don't, you know, you certainly aren't going to mix all the bottles at once. This stuff kicks over really quick. So when you mix this Raptor, you're going to get it, and it's going to feel like that it's not quite full. It's going to feel like it's down to about right here. That's normal. This next line right here, you're going to fill that up with hardener. So from here to here is hardener, and then the rest of it, this little spot right here, is tint, is the color that you're going to use. So it's not very much. It's good when you go to put your gun. Your gun fits onto this bottle. It's going to want to overflow because the gun is displacing some of the liquid, so just be careful. Make sure you shake it up really, really well. And then the other thing you're going to want as far as equipment is really just two things that I can think about: is an orbital sander and a compressor. My compressor is not a two-stage compressor like normally you would use to paint a vehicle. It's a one-stage vehicle compressor. It is a big one. It's one of the big tall ones like Campbell and Housefield. I want to say it's a 50-something gallon, I'm not sure. But so when you only have a one-stage compressor, what's going to end up happening is you're going to deplete the air out of it. So the idea with Raptor is to keep your PSI pretty high. I say pretty high, relatively pretty high. I try to stay somewhere around 60 PSI. My gun, I can't remember if the gun came with it, but I know my gun has a gauge on it where I can see the PSI. If the PSI drops too low, two things that will determine the texture on the surface. One is PSI. Second, it's the distance that you are away from when you're spraying it. So keep those two things in mind. You want to have a constant PSI as best you possibly can, and keep a uniform distance. It's, you know, typically the hoods will tend to show stripes on it from spraying, so just take your time. This last time that I did it, I actually have done this truck twice. I actually removed the hood and did it on the ground. It made it a lot easier. You can see, well, you can't see because of the shadows, but it came out a lot more even. You have to keep in mind, my truck is dirty right now. Sometimes this stuff looks lighter than it does. Sometimes it looks darker. It really depends on the lighting and stuff. It looks like it changes colors. Before you spray your truck, it gives you an opportunity to fix some of those little dings and dents and stuff that you've had. I've bashed in both of my quarter panels at Windrock, and so that's the reason why I did the respray. Plus, the first time I did it, I could have done better. The first time I did it, I did not do the window belt here. This time I did do the window belt in black. So you're going to have to tape it off twice if you're doing trim work like that. You can see I've done my door handles also in black. So I had to basically do the process twice with taping off a little bit. But that about wraps it up. That's the gist of it, of Raptor coating. I hope that answers some of y'all's questions. Again, if I missed something, which I'm sure I did, feel free to comment below. I will be happy to help and answer. One thing I did not cover is that, yes, if you do this yourself, it's going to cost you around about $500. I used to quote people the very few times I've done them, $1,200, and that was included me buying the equipment and supplies and all that stuff, which was unrealistic. The time that it takes to do this is about 2 solid days. One of the things that's going to determine that the most is how many mods you have on your truck. If you're having to take off tents and rear swing outs and armor and sliders, that's going to add to your time dramatically. But when the last time we did it, we took our time. It took weeks, actually, because we did all kinds of stuff to this. But the first time I did it, I think it took me 2 days, but I also didn't have as many mods as I do on it right now. So just keep that in mind, that that you probably want to add a day to that 2 days if you have a lot of mods. So 1 day demodding, 1 day prepping and painting, and another day to put it all back together. So I do know people that are doing this for the neighborhood of around $2,500. If you're interested, I can put you in touch with them. Body shops usually quote upwards around $5,000 to do this job. It's usually Rhino Lining that is quoting this, or Line-X that quote that high price to do the whole truck. I've heard of even more than that. Keep in mind, this is not Rhino Lining, this is not Line-X, this is Raptor coating or Raptor liner. It is a different compound. This is urethane based, where that stuff I think is rubberized in some degree. This is a much cheaper option and does the job just as well. You cannot tell, but I have driven this truck literally through the woods, on trail, but through the woods. I have drove this truck through the thickest of branches sticking out, and it really doesn't hurt it. I will show you real quick a couple places where I've hit it. Like I hit it right here at a rock, hit me at Windrock flip up before I had this armor. You can see that I got into a bank right here one time. I got into a rock right here. This was actually a rock, and you can see it barely even scraped it. I think I noticed a scratch sometime somewhere. Most of this is just mud, but yes, it will scratch. It just takes a lot to scratch it. Okay, this time I think I'm done. Say bye to Bruiser. I hope y'all enjoyed this video. Comment below, like, subscribe. It really helps us build this channel. We're trying to do this full time, and this YouTube channel is very important to that. Thank y'all very much for tuning in. I hope this helps. Y'all take care and get lost on purpose.